And hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. It is a dawn of a new era in America. I have to tell you, today is Tuesday. I've been really busy up until yesterday. When I got some time off, I was going to make a video yesterday, but I have to tell you, from the time that I got home from work until the time my head hit the pillow, quite frankly, I was glued to the TV just watching. I just got caught up in all the inaugural festivities, the inauguration itself, um, the parade, the luncheons, the signings of the executive orders, and the balls last night. Did the first lady not just look stunning? Is it just not wonderful to have such class back in the White House? Melania was simply beautiful. I thought her outfit was. I'm no fashion expert, but I thought she looked fantastic. The whole ceremony, of course, the inaugural ceremony was moved inside because of the inclement weather, and I thought that was probably a good thing. The acoustics, I think, were probably wonderful in there. Um, I have to tell you, I can't get past the fact that Trump was holding nothing back, and he talked about this being a new golden age of America, and he talked about all the things he was going to do. And he basically said all these things in front of four ex-presidents. He just didn't hold anything back. And I thought it when I first heard him say some of these things, I thought, this is a little awkward. But he didn't hold back, folks. He talked about the failures of the past and how it's a new day in the country, and it was riveting, if you ask me. And then he just moved right into the signing of the executive orders. One, it appeared to be kind of a faux pas when it came time for the actual swearing in. Typically, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court will ask the incoming president to put his left hand on the Bible and raise his right hand. I don't know what happened with John Roberts, John Obamacare Roberts. I don't know if he just got in too much of a hurry, but he didn't waste any time. He didn't wait for Trump to put his hand on the Bible. He didn't wait for Melania to step up to the plate, as it were. He just stepped up and said, raise your right hand and repeat after me. And I thought that was not very well done, but anyway, is what it is. Now, what was the story of the day other than the swearing in of the new president? By the way, folks, don't you feel like, particularly those of you in America, don't you feel like you can breathe again? That's just how I felt. I was watching the clock until the time Donald Trump was sworn in, just saying to myself, I just want to breathe again, something I haven't been able to do for 4 years. I'm just, part of me was waiting for a shoe to drop and something to go awry so that Trump couldn't take the oath of office, or there be something catastrophic that happened, or who knows what. But finally, we had the transition from the Biden administration to the Trump administration. I just could exhale. Finally, we have some sanity back in the White House. But I'll tell you what, there were some records set for pardons. Have you ever seen so many pardons, a flurry of pardons by both men on this last day and first day in office for Biden and Trump, respectively? Biden just absolutely went crazy with the pardon pen. Now, you already know that prior to Monday, the 20th, he had already pardoned his son, Hunter. And of course, the big question, folks, is simply this. What is the deal with pardoning people who haven't been charged with anything? How does this make sense to anyone? It seems to me that in the past, a person who receives a presidential pardon is a person who has been charged with a crime, convicted of said crime, and sentenced to whatever term they must serve in prison. Then, if a president at his discretion finds them to be worthy of a pardon, he can issue a presidential pardon. But you're talking about a swath of people who Joe Biden pardoned who haven't been charged with anything. Doesn't mean they shouldn't be, and maybe that's the point. But it makes you ask the question, why are you pardoning people who have not only not been convicted of anything, but haven't been charged with anything? Now, let me look closer into these pardons. Joe Biden rang in Inauguration Day, pardoning some of Washington's most prominent and permanent nefarious figures, including Anthony Fauci, Mark Milley, the disgraceful former general, good old Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, and finally, members of his own family received presidential pardons. For what? I was really hoping and praying that he would not pardon any of these people, particularly Fauci and Liz Cheney, but he did. It was no surprise. Now, these pardons are not for any specific crimes, folks. They are a blanket preemptive order, just a blanket preemptive order to ensure the recipients are never held accountable for whatever federal offenses they may have committed during their time in the halls of power. Now, considering that Fauci swore an oath that, quote, he said the NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute of Virology, unquote. And then Milley reportedly told the Chinese he'd tip them off if the president ordered a strike. Remember that? And Liz Cheney made unethical contact with key J6 committee witnesses without an attorney's knowledge. So there could be plenty of things to look into for potential crimes. But thanks to Joe Biden, of course, that's never going to happen now because he pardoned all of them. Fauci, Cheney, the J6, the entire J6 committee, Mark Milley, and his own family. But of course, he didn't pardon anybody that's serving time in the shadow of the White House for simply being in Washington on January the 6th. 4 years ago, some of these people have been sitting in jail. Biden did nothing for these people. But here comes Donald Trump a few hours later. And Donald Trump, thanks be to God, saved the day and pardoned all these people, these J6 prisoners, as he promised that he would do. Now, I want you to watch this video that I found of Joe Biden. He was asked by Jake Tapper on CNN in December of 2020 about the potential for Donald Trump, then president the first time, to issue all of these pardons. There were rumors that Trump was going to issue mass pardons for people before he left office and Biden assumed office. And Jake Tapper asked Joe Biden, the then president-elect Joe Biden, about all of these potential mass pardons that Donald Trump was supposedly going to issue, and whether or not he, as president, would do the same thing. And I want you to listen to what Joe Biden told Jake Tapper.
President Trump is reportedly considering a wave of preemptive pardons. Does this concern you? All these preemptive pardons?
Well, it concerns me in terms of what kind of precedent it sets and how the rest of the world looks at us as a nation of laws and justice. You're not going to see in our administration that kind of approach to pardons, nor are you going to see in our administration the approach to making policy by tweets. It's just going to be a totally different way in which we approach the justice system.
There you go. You're not going to see it in Biden's administration. There's going to be no mass pardons. It's possible Donald Trump may be issuing mass pardons before he leaves office. What about you, President-elect Biden? Well, you're not going to see that in my administration. We would never do such a thing. Joe Biden once again proves what an utter, absolute liar he is. I mean, folks, this is just one example. There are a legion of examples of Biden just telling bald-faced lies, and there's still people out there that defend this man. I'm telling you, I breathed the biggest sigh of relief when that guy got on the plane and left town. Finally, he's gone. All right, now I want to move on to one more thing. This morning, Tuesday morning, by the way, I don't know where you're watching from, but I'm telling you, it is frigid outside. We're in the teens right now. In the morning here in Alabama, we're supposed to be in single digits. However, we dodged the snow, the blizzard, and I mean literally the blizzard. We've had a freakish storm you may have heard about that happened south, way far south of us. This is a storm which affected places like Houston, Texas, New Orleans, the Gulf Coast, the Panhandle of Florida, down there on the Gulf of America, and into South Georgia, Northern Florida, and the Carolinas. It's just bizarre. The videos of the blizzard on Bourbon Street in New Orleans. And here in the Birmingham area, we don't have a flake. We just got cold weather, but we don't have any snow. Is this just crazy? I'm glad we didn't get the snow. I've had it with snow and cold weather, and I will be glad when it warms up, let me tell you. Now, this morning, there was a prayer service at the National Cathedral. I don't know how many of you saw this, but this is a tradition going back almost 100 years to 1933. As you may know, there is an edifice in Washington, D.C. called the National Cathedral, and it is there ostensibly to host various interfaith services and ceremonies and whatnot. It's an impressive building. But this particular service this morning was a national prayer service, which has been, as I say, since 1933. It's been typically what new presidents attend the morning after their inauguration. And so it was this morning, an interfaith service where you had people from multiple religions, religious leaders from multiple religions stand on the stage of the cathedral, and they would offer their prayers as we turn the page here in America and begin what Trump calls the golden age. There were probably the MC or master of ceremonies was the Episcopal bishop from the Episcopal Protestant denomination. And she is a woman by the name of, let me find her name here. I just had it pulled up, and bear with me just one moment. Her name is Marion Edgar Budd is this woman's name. Marion Edgar Budd. She is, where am I? Here I am. She is an Episcopal bishop, and she's woke. Boy, is she woke. And Marion Edgar Budd used the occasion of the prayer service. She delivered, there was a segment of the service where a homily is delivered, and it fell to Marion Edgar Budd to deliver the homily. And she, in her sermon, proceeded to lecture and bully President Trump. Now, I want you to imagine for a moment, folks, that I am a pastor or a priest, and I invite you to come to my church. And so you graciously accept my invitation. And so you're sitting there in a pew, and I get up to deliver a homily. And while you, my guest, are sitting there in the pew, I start going after you, and I start talking about things that you've said that I disagree with, and you're just having to sit there and take it. This is literally a bully pulpit That's what happened. You would consider me to be rude, and you'd be right. But this is what happened this morning with Marion Edgar Budd, Budde. I believe it's pronounced Bud. Donald Trump was sitting, of course, in the audience, and she chose the occasion with the cameras rolling to bully President Trump. And this is among the things she said. Donald Trump was forced to sit Tuesday through a sermon by a bishop begging him to have mercy on gays and poor immigrants as the Republicans celebrated the start to his second term as president. Trump scowled as the Washington National Cathedral's Marion Edgar Budd pleaded her case from the pulpit for LGBT people and illegal migrants, two groups that Trump targeted with EOs within hours of being sworn in on Monday. She said this, quote, "I ask you to have mercy, Mr. President. There are gay and lesbian and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, the people who pick our farms and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meat packaging plants, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals. They may not be citizens or have the proper documentation, but the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals." And Trump had to sit there and listen to Marion Budd, this Episcopal bishop, lecture him. Of course, Marion Budd didn't have anything to say about the actual law of the nation which she resides, and the fact that we finally have a president who is simply upholding the law. She never referred to lawbreakers as illegal immigrants. She referred to them as migrants, as if they've done nothing wrong. Folks, I am so over this stuff. Let me let you in on a little secret. I used to be an Episcopalian. Marion Edgar Budd is an Episcopal bishop of this failing Protestant denomination, and they are failing, they are losing, have lost millions of members here in the West. Now, the Episcopal denomination basically came from the Anglican Communion, the Church of England, the church that was created when the Pope of Rome refused to give King Henry the divorce. He was seeking a divorce so he could be with Anne Boleyn. You probably know that story. So he started his own church, and that became the Anglican Church, or the Church of England. And from that, many of the founders of America were Anglicans or Church of England or Episcopals. And the Episcopal Church in North America early on was known as the Protestant Episcopal Church. They finally dropped the Protestant, and they're just the Episcopal Church. Now, I was in the Episcopal Church as it was part of my journey. I started life as a Protestant, and it was I was on this journey to the Orthodox Church. I wanted to find the original church and get back to the original moorings of Christianity. And so I began to study church history, and that's a journey I've alluded to in the past. But on my way back to the original church, I spent about 3 years as an Episcopalian. And this was in the early 90s, around 91 to 93 or 94, something like that. And I can tell you, even then, the Episcopal Church was going woke. And I'm telling you, folks, any group, any church, any company that embraces wokeness, you better get really woke, because the future is not bright for you if you embrace this nuttiness. And there's no other religious body in the United States, as far as I know, that has more embraced wokeness than the Episcopal denomination. More so than the Presbyterians, more so than the Roman Catholics, more so than anybody. They have completely embraced wokeness. They regularly ordain into their clerical ranks people from all sorts of deviant backgrounds. I got to be honest, I don't believe a woman is supposed to be a bishop, but here we have. It's never been in Christianity anyway, but in the Episcopal Church, here we go. And of course, this woman has got to be some left-wing woke lunatic who stands in her pulpit at the National Cathedral and lectures the president like a bully, because you got to sit there and take it. Now, Trump was asked afterwards, as he was back at the White House, what he thought of the service, and he said, "I didn't think it was very good." What did you think? That's what he said. He said, "I think they could have done better." I mean, he had to sit there and take this verbal abuse from this bishop in the Episcopal Church who's trying to lecture and school him, because, as we all know, all Republicans they have no compassion. They only hate they only hate minorities. They hate people who are simply coming over our border looking for a better life. It's not possible that any of them could be bad people. It's not possible that they're actually breaking the law. Why? They're simply migrating, don't you know? I'll tell you what, Bishop, why don't you just stick to doing whatever it is you do and stop being a bully? This was her chance to get her 15 minutes of fame, her time to shine. She knew the cameras were rolling, so she took the occasion to make a name for herself and go after the president. I'll tell you what, there were, a lot of Trump's base are evangelicals. There were evangelicals there, but none of them got a chance to say anything. It was a shame that somebody who could have been conciliar toward Trump, kind toward Trump, perhaps a Franklin Graham or a Robert Jeffries or someone like that, why didn't they give them a chance to say a few words? Maybe it's because they're Trump allies. Maybe that's why Bishop Budd refused to let them get into her pulpit. All right, so this is where we are. We're in day, I guess, 2 of the Trump administration, the golden age of America, where we're going to change the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Mount Denali is apparently going back to Mount McKinley in Alaska. Wow, it's exciting. It feels good, folks. Feels good to be an American again. It feels good to have some sanity back in the White House. And if you don't agree with what I'm saying, then I hope you'll just pardon me. All right, give me your comments down below. I'd love to hear what you've got to say. Make sure you give me a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe if you have not to the Triple T channel. Everybody take care. Stay warm. I'll talk to you soon.